The energy has just been turned loose. It's there, and it's going to continue. So the more victories we have, the more energy that is pumped into the system. That's why this race is so important. This is the most strategically important political Senate race that's going on in this country. So
have the courage to say to our enemies, there is a price we will not pay. There is a point beyond which they must not advance. This is the meaning, in the phrase of Barry Goldwater, peace through strength. Winston Churchill said the destiny of man is not measured by material computations. When great forces are on the move in the world, we learn we're spirits, not animals. And he said there's something going on in time and space and beyond time and space, which, whether we like it or not, spells duty. You and I have a rendezvous with destiny. We'll preserve for our children this, the last best hope of man on earth, or we'll sentence them to take the last step into 1,000 years of darkness.
David Rockefeller is here. He is the grandson of John D. Rockefeller, the founder of Standard Oil, and one of America's most remarkable families. Think of Rockefeller University, Colonial Williamsburg, the Museum of Modern Art, Rockefeller Center, the United Nations, Lincoln Center, and you sense just a part of the contribution of the Rockefeller family. The fortune came from Standard Oil, the tradition of commitment.
Prominent among the organizations sponsoring the Miami event were the Council of the Americas, founder and honorary chairman, David Rockefeller. The Americas Society, chairman, David Rockefeller. The Forum of the Americas, founder, David Rockefeller. The Institute for International Economics, financial backer and board member, David Rockefeller. The Trilateral Commission, founder and honorary chairman, David Rockefeller. Rockefeller's influence also extends to the current administration. He was chairman emeritus of the CFR when Vice President Dick Cheney once served as a director, a relationship that Cheney concealed during his congressional career.
It's good to be back at the Council on Foreign Relations. As Pete mentioned, I've been a member for a long time and was actually a director for some period of time. I never mentioned that when I was campaigning for re-election back home in Wyoming.
Very few of David's contributions. He was the founder of the Americas Society, an organization that promotes inter-American cooperation. He helped found the Trilateral Commission, designed to promote understanding and cooperation among the nations of North America, Western Europe, and Japan. He was instrumental in creating the International Executive Service Corps, a group of volunteers from the private sector who provide technical and managerial assistance to private enterprise in developing nations. For 15 years, he served as the chairman of the Council on Foreign Relations. Among other international achievements, David Rockefeller is the honorary chairman of the Japan Society, an honorary trustee of the International House, and a member of the Advisory Council of the Bilderberg Conference. David, as the mayor of New York City, I want to thank you very, very much for bringing the United Nations to New York City. As a citizen of the United States, I want to thank you very much for all that you have done for America, you and your family, and as a citizen of the world, thank you for everything you've done for world peace.
And if he asks you if you're running the world, I think you dismiss that as well.
Sure, yeah. But I think we can dismiss that before we start. Okay. Well, you'll be meeting the emperor, is that correct?
I'm looking forward to that.
What will you be talking about?
That will certainly, to a large extent, be his decision. My impression is that the emperors tend to...
Actually, here an encounter with Saddam Hussein in Iraq, in Baghdad. Was there anything in that meeting some 20 years ago that would have led you to believe that he'd be playing the role he is today?
I don't think so, but in the light of what's happened, it certainly makes it all the more interesting. I did it actually at the request of Henry Kissinger, who was then Secretary of State.
Permit me at least to make a brief introduction. David Rockefeller was born in 1915 in New York City, the youngest of 6 children, 1 daughter and 5 sons of John D. Rockefeller Jr. and Abby Aldrich Rockefeller. Often on roller skates, shadowed by a chauffeured limousine, He attended the Lincoln School of Columbia University's Teachers College for 12 years. His teachers there thought him a slow learner, a condition diagnosed later in life as dyslexia, a disability that also afflicted 3 of his siblings. During these youthful years, he also acquired an extensive collection of beetles by erecting at night a sheet illuminated with a light on the porch of his family estate in Westchester County. He graduated from Harvard College in 1936 with a degree in English history and literature. After postgraduate study at Harvard and the London School of Economics, he earned his PhD in economics from the University of Chicago in 1940. His doctoral thesis, Unused Business Resources and Economic Waste, was published by the University of Chicago Press. In 1940, shortly after receiving his PhD, he went to work at $1 a year as the secretary to New York Mayor Fiorello LaGuardia. And there he immediately put the theory of his doctoral thesis to work and won the admiration of his honor by finding tenants for the undeveloped commercial space at the city's new airport that had been named for the mayor. That summer, he married Peggy McGrath, and that was a bond that would last for 56 years until her death in 1996. They would have 4 daughters, 2 sons, and 10 grandchildren. In March of 1942, Mr. Rockefeller enlisted in the United States Army as a private and began basic training at Fort Jay on Governor's Island, where he found that playing baseball was far more stressful than all of the close order drills. A year later, he entered engineer OCS school, followed by further training at the Military Intelligence School at Fort Ritchie, Maryland. For the remainder of the Second World War, he served in both North Africa and France, including 8 months as an assistant military attaché in Paris, and he was awarded by the French government the Legion of Honor before his discharge as a captain in 1945. In 1946, he joined the Chase Bank, soon to be known as the Chase Manhattan Bank, as a lowly assistant manager in the foreign department at the munificent salary of $3,500 a year. He commuted to work each morning on the Lexington Avenue subway. And during the next 35 years, 11 of them as chairman and CEO, he transformed the Chase Bank from a somewhat, if you'll excuse the expression, dowdy, conservative domestic institution into an international financial powerhouse, and simultaneously he emerged as one of the world's most influential and often controversial banking leaders. 3 times he would decline a presidential invitation to become Secretary of the Treasury, and once he would decline the post as the head of the Federal Reserve Board. From 1950 to 1975 as chairman of Rockefeller University and later as the head of its executive committee, he presided over the transformation of that institution into perhaps the premier center of cell biology in this country and the world. During most of the 1980s, he served as chairman of the Rockefeller Brothers Fund, a major grant-making organization that he and his brothers first created in 1940. Continuing a tradition begun by his mother, Mr. Rockefeller has played a significant role in the long and glorious history of New York's Museum of Modern Art, where he has served as a trustee since 1948. For 15 years, beginning in 1970, he was also the chairman of the Council of Foreign Relations. He is the past president of Harvard College's Board of Overseers and a life trustee of the University of Chicago, founded by his grandfather. He has left his imprint on urban redevelopment projects from Lower Manhattan to San Francisco's Embarcadero and L'Enfant Plaza in our nation's capital. Renoir's Gabriel at the Mirror once hung in his living room. 3 of Monet's water lilies graced his stairwell at Hudson Pines. He has been described as one of America's greatest business leaders and philanthropists. He's also been described as the chairman of the board of America's ruling class. He has been pilloried regularly by the left and by the right for dancing with dictators and for conspiring to enslave the nation to the machinations of the Trilateral Commission. Random House has recently published his memoirs, a volume written with much clarity and a great deal of candor about himself and his family. Will you please join with me in welcoming David Rockefeller?